Thoughtless casual gaming. Thoughtless casual gaming. Thoughtless casual gaming. Thoughtless casual gaming.
Hello, you are listening to Thoughtless Casual Gaming with Brett and Jace. We are a Geelong-based gaming podcast where we play some games and usually play them badly and then talk about them. I am half of your host. My name is Brett. This is...
Oh, me.
That's your cue.
Yeah, no, that's cool. Sorry. I didn't know if we were introducing me or the episode or anything. And can we just stop to really appreciate how professional that introduction was?
I know, it's totally not like our usual fare, is it?
I'm not okay with it. I feel weird. Anyway, I am Jace. Continue.
All right. We have been playing around with ideas for a little bit, and what we want to bring to you guys is something a little bit different to our normal crapness, let's say. Normally, I mean, most of you who are listening to this, at least at the start, will have heard normal episodes where we talk about what we've done, what we've played, what we've watched, the hobby we've attempted or not attempted to do.
What we've eaten, how many times we've gone to the loo, like all that kind of...
Yeah, usual sort of stuff. This is not going to be like this. We're going to do a bit of a series. We have yet to come up with a name for the series.
No.
No.
But it will be less thoughtless than you are used to.
Yeah. We considered, what was it, thoughtful competitive gaming? But it's not going to be thoughtful. It's not going to be competitive.
Look, it might be gaming.
It's going to be gaming related. That's what we do. That's what we're known for amongst our two listeners. So
I was going to say known for. Anyway.
Both listeners think we play games. Anyway, what we thought we'd bring to you is a bit of a rundown, sort of, if you have listened to us before, you know that Blood Bowl is something that's near and dear to our hearts. So why not try and go into a little bit more depth on that? So we're presenting to you episode 1 of an unnamed series, where we bring
an unknown number of episodes
of unknown quality. Actually, we're pretty sure we know what sort of quality it'll be.
I guarantee you. Yeah.
If you want quality, look elsewhere. But we thought we'd go into a bit more detail on the different teams that you can play in Blood Bowl. And we thought we'd kick it off with a fairly popular team, a team that is currently number 1 in our little Sevens league that we're running, and will be playing off in the finals for the championship.
Assuming we play finals for the championship against an unknown opponent at this point in time, depending on who else gets a game in the next 3
2.5
hours. Yeah.
So it's going to be against you, isn't it? It's going to be against Notlings.
This is still not right. I'm not okay with this.
But let's kick it off with a bit of a discussion about Skaven. Now, Skaven, for anyone that doesn't know the Warhammer world, the Warhammer universe, Skaven are a little fantasy race, principally, what would you call them? Rat men.
That is pretty much it.
Yep, they're kind of a bit smaller than humans. They've got rat faces, rat tails, rat everything else, rat appendages. But they're the lore for Skaven is awesome. They're one of my favorite races. I made a 40k army out of Skaven tails and bodies because Skaven don't exist in 40k for some stupid reason. But on the Blood Bowl pitch, they can be a force to be reckoned with.
So, actually, on that whole fluff piece, because the books give us a whole little paragraph of delicious fluff that we can lift directly from to explain exactly who these are.
Quote unquote.
So in this one, The game of Blood Bowl has become very popular in all walks of Skaven life. So true to their warped nature, the Skaven have adapted the game in their own special way. A new clan has been formed to govern and control the game. Clan Rygans, which consists of over 20 teams. The most famous are the Skaven Black Scramblers, twice winners of the Blood Bowl trophy. Several other teams have achieved successes in other leagues, lesser leagues, and competitions too, and there are mixed teams with a large proportion of Skaven competing at various levels. Of course, their close association with Warpstone and the resulting mutations have helped with this success, but even the basic Skaven player has a lot going for them. It's only a matter of time before a Skaven team makes it to the top again.
Which it has done in our current league.
See, we have just proven fate.
Yes, we've proven the words of GW. I mean, technically, I'm sure that any team can be at the top of any ladder at any given moment, which is the fun part about Blood Bowl.
So very much. So the rats, they are fundamentally, look, I feel like, a lot of what we're talking about is tactics, and I feel like this is one of the teams where the tactics and it probably speaks for itself a little bit, but the team still gives you some pretty sweet options.
Mm-hmm. Definitely.
Choice is really where this game kind of, those choices between how you want to play and how you want to build your team is the juicy stuff.
So going into the team, you have 5 different positions that you can take. So your basic guys are your Skaven linemen. You can have up to 16 in any given 11's team. They cost 50k each, which is pretty much nothing. Movement 7, strength 3, edge 3+, passing 4+, armor value 8+. On from them, you're looking at the throwers. You can have up to 2 of these in any team. They're 85k. 7 movement, again, 3 strength, 3+ edge, 2+ passing, 8+ armor value with the skills of pass and sure hands. Moving on to potentially the star of the roster, the gutter runners, of which you can have up to 4. 85k again, movement 9, strength 2, agility 2+, passing 4+, armor value 8+ with dodge. You can have up to 2 blitzers, which are 90k, movement 7, strength 3, edge 3+, passing 5+, armor value 9, and block. And then last but not least, the big guy. You can have one of these. He is, of course, the Rat Ogre. 150k, so as usual for a big guy, a big jump in the price. Movement 6, strength 5, edge 4+, no passing to speak of, 9+ armor value with animal savagery, frenzy, loner 4+, mighty blow +1, and prehensile tail. You also get access to 50k rerolls for Skaven, which is ridiculous. That is the cheapest reroll that you will find out there. They are classified as tier 1, which is absolutely correct. But they do also have access to an apothecary, which is important in your league play. So, that being said, what are the pros and cons of this team?
Look, I think if we kick really off the bat, and that stat summary gave us a really clear, the Rat Ogre is your slowest moving piece at movement 6, which is still fast.
Yes.
That is still quick. And, the Rat Ogre being the big kind of brawly guy, if he is the slowest piece and he's still movement 6, the rest is 7 and then 9 for the gutter runners. So I feel like the very first thing that we talk about is how fast this team are.
They are faster than any other team in the game. That gutter runner, movement 9, that's more than anybody else.
So you've got relatively standard access to skills in that you've got pass and sure hands, you've got some dodge, you've got some block, you've got some those kind of basic skills. Mm-hmm. Where this probably falls down, or this definitely kind of tries to balance out a little bit, is the armor.
Yeah.
So armor 8.
They are fast, but they are squishy.
So this team is fundamentally for those people that want to play ball They want to play actual Blood Bowl with the ball. They want to score quickly. And you're not afraid to lose a couple of players as long as you're up on the scoreboard.
That's it. I mean, and that's the way that most Skaven games should go. You should probably lose a couple unless your opponent is really unlucky. Let's say, with their dice. But you should be at least 1, 2, 7 touchdowns ahead by the end of the game. 7
That
maybe
is
a little bit exaggerating, but
Look, maybe we'll see. So, I mean, definite pros. Ability to score, I would say, still a limited passing game in that you have got the dedicated thrower, which means you've got some decent passing ability, but it's still only 1 or 2 players on your team.
That being said, though, that passing, like the 2+ is the best passing skill in the game. Add to that the fact that he's got pass and sure hands, which means that he can pick up the ball a lot easier than a lot of other players. And movement 7 means that, if you're running around with a thrower, if you do take a thrower and you're running around with him, he can get around, find an open gutter runner, 2+ pass, 2+ catch, away you go.
Oh, it's bullshit good. And I suppose that's the other piece. Like, I'm flicking through other options for passes, and for the extra 5k on a human thrower, for example, you're getting the extra movement. And that's probably, that's the main difference, is you're getting the extra point of movement for 5k. But he's also passing to a gutter runner.
Yeah.
So there is a bit of a tax on that.
The other thing that I wanted to point out as a bit of a pro as well is the access to mutations. For secondary skills, you can get a mutation on any of these players, which just opens up some real options. You have gutter runners with 2 heads. You can have, extra arms to pick up the ball, catch the ball, that sort of thing. Like the mutations really open a whole heap of customization for your characters. Really, you can really sort of tailor them the way you want.
And it does open up some extra options for you in the way that you build a character over the course of a league for specialist roles that you wouldn't necessarily get in other teams. So, I think we'll see as we kind of burn through those positions and why they're good, why they're bad, why we would take them and that kind of stuff. I think you'll see the mutations, particularly on a couple, really start to shine.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. But really, it's a fast team. It's a squishy team. But it's a team that will score a lot of touchdowns. And realistically, as long as if you've got one gutter runner still on the pitch, you are a threat to scoring in any sort of given turn. Doesn't matter if you're playing 7s or 11s, that 9 movement is going to cover a vast majority of the board.
Look, let's talk other pros of this. The Skaven team, they are one of the original teams. Like, they've been around since God was a boy. The models are sweet as fuck. They have a real sense of character. They've got a real defined personality. And fundamentally, they're giant-ass rat men. That's kind of cool. The options for how you paint them are so open because they are these grotty little warpstone-loving rats. If you start digging into the fluff, you can start talking about which clan they're from, or how you want to paint them and how you want to customize them and how you want to, you've got the option if you want to go silly during a league of actually putting mutations on the players when they get them. So it's a bit of a, as well as a competitive players game, it is a bit of a hobbyist dream.
Yeah, absolutely. That's about as far as I've got. Like, I just wanted to keep it a bit basic with the pros and cons. Did you have anything else you wanted to add there?
No, they score, they hit, they die.
Yeah, that seems fair. So let's move right along. Just the next section we want to talk about, just sort of, typical lineups, tactics that you might use, that sort of thing. Skaven, you're playing the fast game. You want to utilize that in your lineups.
Mhm.
So you are probably looking at least in a normal 11s game, probably at least 2 gunner runners. And their goal is basically to dodge away from wherever the hell they are, get out in scoring distance, and either have the ball already or be open for a quick pass or a handoff.
Mhm. And realistically, scoring distance is a long way.
Mhm.
So that they're kind of your threat pieces. I mean, the piece with that is they are strength 2. So, they will be a target. But that's fundamentally it. I think if we're talking lineups, right, the big decision that players need to make when they're forming a team is to rat ogre or not to rat ogre.
Mhm.
That's kind of where the shift is. You either decide to sort of offset some of that lower armor and lower strength with a big old strength 5 frenzied jerk, um, which brings a whole different bag of tools and a whole different bag of threats, or you focus and you really go hard on the scoring game and the ball, and you leave him home, save a big chunk of change, and load up on the gutter runners and maybe your throwers, and you kind of load up on those positions that will maximize your scoring potential.
That's it. I mean, the Red Ogre, like we said, I mean, it's 150k, so it's a 60k jump from the Blitzers. You are looking at animal savagery there. So guaranteed there are going to be games that you use the Red Ogre where you need it to do something and it flat out refuses.
Mm-hmm.
Or turns around and punches somebody else.
Yeah. Look, it's not the worst neg trait out there, but it will have an impact.
Definitely. And for a big guy, it's still 9+ on the armor, so he's not the strongest. Well, not his strength is fine. He's gonna fail those armor rolls more than, say, even a mummy or a treeman or something like that.
Add to that, he's got frenzy, which is both a boon and a liability. So you do have to follow up. You don't have so many options there. You do have to make that second block, which can get you caught out of position. And sometimes those blocks don't necessarily mean it's 2 or 3 dice uphill. You could be blocking uphill, and that's where that armor will kill you as well. You'll end up throwing a 1 die block or an uphill block, sculling out.
Used well, frenzy is great though. Like
Absolutely.
you can be pushing people off the pitch and doing all sorts of stuff with frenzy. You just got to think it through beforehand.
Yeah.
I mean, the team, like I say, it's squishy and it's a fast team, but it does have hitting potential. I mean, the gutter runners are strength 2, but everybody else is strength 3, barring the Rat Ogre, of course.
That is standard. That is most other players.
Yep. Get an assist on your block and your 2 dice punching most things. Your blitzers come automatically with block, which is a huge boon because block is one of, if not the best skill in the game, at least for a starting position.
Mm-hmm.
For a hitter anyway. So you're going to be hitting with your blitzers, your Rat Ogre, potentially even your linemen are going to be throwing a few punches, knocking a few people down. It's just when that comes back to you, of course, you've probably got less armor than a lot of other teams.
Yeah, that 8 really does make a difference.
Mm-hmm.
It's amazing how much jumping from an 8+ to a 9+ armor. And I mean, the blitzers come with 9+, which means you can throw them in there. You can be a little bit reckless with them. And I suppose it only really starts to tell when you're on a big guy, when a lot of those big guys are 10+ers.
Yep.
He just, you do a direct comparison.
Yeah. I mean, 8+, we talk, Blood Bowl people talk a lot about how squishy elves are. You only need 2 elves to score, but you're probably only going to have 2 elves by the end of the game. Elves are 8+ armor as well. So, there's no difference here between the elves and the Skaven as far as armor value goes.
No.
But you're basically looking for a run, pass, score quickly sort of team, you can. It's not as easy as it used to be, but you can still definitely one turn score with a gutter runner
Mhm.
on the line of scrimmage. That's not an issue. You basically just you want to be outscoring your opponent, and you want to be doing it quickly, and then punching them enough to get the ball back. And a well-timed blitz on a kickoff is also another scoring opportunity for you as well.
Absolutely. And I suppose, look, the other thing with Skaven is they play a relatively standard game. You're not relying on tricks. You're not relying on throwing teammates. You're not relying on secret weapons or funky stuff. It is legitimately a run and score game. So you don't have to learn funky mechanics to play this team.
No.
You can pick them up out of the box. You can throw them on the pitch, and you can play them as standard, as per the basic rules, and they just do it well.
I mean, I suppose that's another thing too. The box for Skaven, get 2 gutter runners, 2 blitzers, 2 throwers, handful of linemen. That's definitely a team out there. The only thing you'd be looking at if you really want to focus is you need the extra gutter runners and a rat ogre if you're going to go either of those directions. So that's what I love about Blood Bowl. Like, just a lot of teams, one box. That's all you need.
Yeah.
So,
and even then, like you can definitely source, kit bash, make an extra couple of gutter runners if that's what you want to do. I've seen that many rat ogres made out of different parts as well.
Mm-hmm.
You don't necessarily have to go and purchase a brand shiny new rat ogre.
Yeah, I'm still like my old Skaven team is all second ed, third ed models, so mostly metal. I love the rat ogre from back those days. The Forge World ones I'm not overly keen on. I mean, the newest one is slightly better than the previous one, but it's still...
Fundamentally, the amount that I've seen that were made from Island of Blood, Warhammer, Skaven, rat ogres, it came in the starter box. There's about 1 billion on the second-hand market. They look good. They do the job. It's happy days.
You buy a box of Skaven for Warhammer, you're going to get a crap load of them too.
Yeah.
So... I suppose, the only other thing that I've really got to say is, as far as tactics go, you're running, you're passing, you basically, your gutter runners will be the ones that score the most in any given league. So keep them safe because they are going to be absolutely number one priority target for your opponent.
Yeah, and I mean, they're the lowest strength, they're the lowest armor, and they are absolutely target priority number one, because they are the biggest scoring threats. So that is probably the piece. The other half of that, if we're talking league play as well, they will score more touchdowns than any other player on your team, bar none. So what that can mean is they tend to hog the star player points, and they tend to skill up faster than everyone else, which is good for their preservation potentially. But it does mean that if you want a little bit of balance between your team and some other to share some of those skills and whatnot, they can be a little bit skill hungry.
They can be. I mean, it's not necessarily a bad piece, but you don't want your leveled up gutter runner to die horribly.
No, you do get attached to them, and that's when they die.
Yes, absolutely. They do get general skills on a primary skill up, which means that pretty much you can take block pretty much straight away, which block dodge on a gutter runner will improve his survivability no end, because you're basically looking at, I mean, you're not going to be throwing too many blocks with them, so there's only one side of a 6-sided dice which is going to knock them down.
Yeah. Look, also they get edge in general. So starting really, if you want to play heavy score, you've got, and to keep them safe, you can put dodge on them, you can put fend on them, you can put sidestep on them. They have a lot of access to it means that you get one hit at them, you need to star them to power them down, otherwise they're just getting pushed and then they're out. and they're gone. I will say, and this is kind of where the mutation piece picks up though, and the gutter runners we're probably going to spend a little bit of time on because they are fundamentally the stars of the show here. The mutations give you some additional options that let you choose how you want to play them, and you might have a couple that are really heavy scoring, but they can work as a defensive piece. Looking at especially other teams that have maybe a strength 2 scoring threat, a skink, for example, an Elizabeth team or something like that, you can get horns on a mutation.
Mm-hmm.
They dodge really well. You can get blocked very easily. Suddenly you've potentially got on the blitz, strength 3 hitter that is going to be able to get into cages, to get into dodgy places, to hit a ball carrier. You could play wrestle on them. You could play a few different options, a strip ball. Once you get horns on them on a blitz, they become a real ball sacking threat as well.
And horns I've also found is also a good offensive piece. So if you've got a gutter runner with horns who has the ball, that blitz, if they're marked by somebody, a 3+ blitz, strength 3, blitz against the person next to them, get an assist on there. You've got 2 dice. All you need to do is push them out of the way, and then
that's all you're looking to do.
And scurry up the other side.
So I mean, obviously they get the same options for things like, big hands, 2 heads, which all do great things, but they all kind of improve what they do already. I think when you start looking at the other mutation options, you start to get some additional threats that they can put out as well.
I mean, even foul appearance. I do like foul appearance.
I mean, that is just a personal taste thing. I'm going to put that out there. But so I think, look, they're the ones that I would really talk about skilling up. I think the skilling for a lot of the others are relatively standard.
Mm-hmm.
Your blitzers, you're going to look for things like Mighty Blow. You're going to look for things that help them kill a little bit better. If you get access, the other thing with your blitzer and possibly your rat ogre, given they've got access to strength, is guard. You've got a fundamentally strength 3 or 2 team in this instance. So the more assists you can get, the better. So equally, if you get a secondary skill on a lineman, guard is a solid option. But
I'm always fond of kick. I'm just going to throw that out there. Kick's always been my favourite.
Kick is never bad.
No.
Equally, even though it's a fast team, kickoff return is on the ball, I think it's called now.
Yep.
Is still a solid option, so you can maximise your movement to do the things that you want to do, not go and fetch a ball. When you've got a thrower that shows up with already movement 7, with sure hands, who's probably picking up the ball, even if it's wet, and he's passing to a gutter runner who's catching, likely on a 2.
Yep.
And you can, as a real traditional thrower, you can skill him up accordingly. He comes with that stuff. You can give him accurate. You can give him strong arm potentially. If you can get a secondary, cloudburst is not terrible. The leader.
Leader is a solid choice. Just having leader being a passing skill and the thrower having access to passing on a primary means that it's a very cheap reroll.
Mm-hmm. And they already have cheap rerolls. You've already done pretty well on them.
Yep.
And that's probably the only other thing I would say for the lineup piece, apart from deciding whether you're playing the Rat Ogre or not, rerolls. Mm-hmm. I fundamentally subscribe to the concept that I don't believe in taking more than 3 rerolls at team creation for 11. That's fundamentally against everything I hold dear. So teams for me are either a 2 reroll or a 3 reroll team. Mm-hmm. And that is when your ball skills shouldn't need them too much. So anywhere where your ball handlers are Edge 2+, you can afford to go light on the rerolls, and you've got some base skills. You've got dodge, so you've got built-in rerolls. You've got block. You've got some built-in rerolls. You've got sure hands. Skaven, you can definitely get away with 2 rerolls at the start of a season.
Easy. And even, there's something to be said about filling in that extra cash on dedicated fans from the start, getting a bit more cash back that way, because the money that you spend on dedicated fans, you'll have that all back within a game or two. So
that's about all I have to say about 11s.
Mm-hmm. 7s.
This is the important bit.
This is the important bit for us currently, because 7s is definitely a focus for us. How, sir, would you play Skaven in a 7s scenario?
This still fundamentally comes down to Rat Ogre or not to Rat Ogre.
Mm-hmm.
I think, as tempting as the big guy is, for me, taking rats on a 7s pitch, I would probably look at going, the thrower is too hard to pass up.
Mm-hmm. Agreed.
It's just too much of a threat quickly to get the ball where you need it. I want at least one attacking piece, which means I'm taking a blitzer, and then I'm filling out my other 2 positions with gutter runners because I can't not.
Yep.
That's how I want to build the team.
Yeah. Look, if you want to be a bit punchier, you might think about 2 blitzers, but generally, I think 1 blitzer, 1 thrower, 2 gutter runners is a very solid starting point.
Yeah.
I mean, the thing with 7s is it's a smaller field. It's much easier for those gutter runners to get around and score.
And whilst you're still the same distance from the end zone, you're still a 1-turn touchdown threat, and there is space between the line and the scrimmage, which means your rats are a little bit safer for that first turn.
Mm-hmm.
So I think you don't need to line up on or load up on the heavy stuff as much as you would if you had to line up on the line of scrimmage against another team. And you can really focus your blitzer on the clearing a hole for the runners to get through. Fundamentally, you can quite easily argue that the Rat Ogre on a 7s pitch is a huge control piece, especially given it's smaller. You've got frenzy. Crowd surfing is a legitimate tactic. And prehensile tail, I feel like, doesn't get enough attention in that it is just harder to dodge away from him. So if you can mark a couple of players with him, there is just, on a game where there is effectively no rerolls, you're just increasing the odds of a fail on your opponent's behalf, which is never a bad thing. So he's still a legitimate choice.
Absolutely. I totally agree. Like, the marking of a piece that would normally dodge away from anyone, so your elves, your goblins, any sort of stunties, anything that will get away from you and get closer to the ball or closer to the end zone, marking them with the piece with prehensile tail, or let's say if you are skilling up, tentacles.
Mm-hmm.
Tentacles is a very viable option. I have shut down so many games with tentacles by positioning it correctly.
It gets more interesting because you don't want to rely on the skill ups in a 7s league.
True.
Because there is the chance of them being drafted. But you're not playing for rerolls. You only have to worry about 7 players. You're probably maxing out your roster, so you're not really stressed about playing inducements or anything like that. It is fundamentally about, for me, it is about maximizing the things the team does well, and that is getting the ball and getting it to the end zone.
Agreed. So,
if you wanted to play really gutsy, you could ditch the blitzer and go 3 gutter runners.
Which is, that's another kettle of fish altogether. But if you're playing a tournament, just need those quick scores. And especially if it's a resurrection tournament.
Yeah.
Thoughts?
You play 3 gutter runners. You can put all 3 of them in position to score in your first turn and hold the ball with the thrower. watch what your opponent does to mark it, and then you just pass it to the one that doesn't get marked.
Yep. The one that just needs one dodge to get away.
This is it. It's you just throw it to the easy one to get to. It's happy days, and then your linemen just go around and just mark players to make it harder to mark your gutter runners.
Yeah. God, I love Skaven. I just, even talking about them, I just love them. I love the little faces. I love the models. I love the whole lore.
I love their little faces.
They're cute, man. I love them.
Look, the thing with Skaven, I would say, when we start talking, whether it's 7s or 11s, the hard bit for them is probably defense rather than offense. Offense kind of writes itself, especially if you don't load up on either Rat Ogre or max out your blitzers. You don't have those kind of more reliable hitty pieces to blitz in, to sack a ball carrier, to do that kind of stuff. So that is where you have to get a little bit... Cagier is the wrong word in Blood Bowl because cages are such a thing, but cage breaking with rats can be a challenging piece.
Yeah, if you can do it, but the idea realistically with Skaven 2 is you want to be scoring, in the first turn or two, right?
Mm-hmm.
You can score in 2 turns, no problems with Skaven. So if you can score quickly and then just delay your opponent, like you can really, you've got the upper hand in that regard. Yes, if you can score quickly and you can delay your opponent, then you are up already, and you just got to keep that momentum going.
So that's it. If it takes you 2 turns to score and it takes your opponent 4 or 5 turns to score, you do that twice and they've run out of time.
Yep,
you're already up. If you can suddenly sack the ball on defense and start scoring on defense as well, you're 3-0 up. You start picking that piece, and that's probably where the challenge starts to be and the skill starts to be and playing. But step 1 is just stop them scoring for as long as you can, and then the second they score, turn it over and match it.
Exactly. Which is not hard with a team like Skaven.
And if you're playing a fundamentally scory team, you're playing another rat team, you're playing an elf team, suddenly your strength is as good as theirs, so you can play defensively.
Yes. Oh, man. A game where everybody's scoring every 2 turns. There's a game. That's about it from me. You got anything else you want to add?
That is Skaven in a nutshell. Look, fundamentally fun. I think the fact that they're star players, or being the gutter runners, not actual star players, but the gutter runners are strength 2, it means that it keeps the tension in a game. If they were stronger than that, at that speed,
everyone would be
too hard. It would just be too hard to beat them on defense. But the fact that most standard players are going to 2 dice them, and they've only got dodge off the back to save them, it keeps the tension in the game, and that's where it's fun. You have to play a little bit risky, you've got to play a little bit fast and loose, and you've got to trust that the runners will get to where they want to get to.
Yeah.
And that's kind of where the fun is.
Yeah. You will lose people. That is going to happen in any sort of given game.
That is such the Skaven way.
Yeah.
There are always more rats.
That's it. They love throwing their own people in front of weapons, and it's always somebody else's fault. And that's the other thing. If you lose when you're playing Skaven, it's always somebody else's fault. It's not your fault.
Correct.
The players let me down. The wind wasn't going the right direction.
It was sabotaged by a rival clan.
It's all part of the fluff. Anyway, that's it for episode 1. We'll do a couple of these, see how people react to them. If you enjoy this kind of
semi-structured,
yeah, a bit more focused than our usual ramblings, let us know. Give us a follow. Facebook, Spotify, Podbean, Twitch, Tweedbean. We're on them all. And if you want to get involved, if you want to help us out, by all means, jump on Patreon. We've got a couple of tiers there that you can help us give back to the community, because all that money just goes back into prizes, competitions, giveaways, that sort of stuff. So,
and the other thing I very much encourage, if you've got different ideas to how Skaven play, if you've got some really cool builds that you've made up over leagues, if you've got, moments or things that you would really like to share about your Skaven team or something that's worked really well, throw it in comments somewhere, hit us up on Facebook, let us know where we either got it wrong or where you found something cool and unusual. Is definitely keen to hear about that as well.
I mean, this whole episode is just two jerks on the internet talking their own opinions. We're not right. We're not wrong.
Well, I'm right.
Well, I must be wrong then.
Well, unless you're agreeing, in which case you can't be.
Sure. Anywho, that's it from us. Laters.
Catch ya.
Thoughtless, casual gaming. Thoughtless,